All right, guys, let's get into our problem set now. So we've been working on those mental strategies, and we are going to then see how we can do with it on our problem set. So it wants us to circle each expression that is not equivalent. Not equivalent. Well, I just really want to use the commutative property real quick to think about this. 16 times 29 is also 29 times 16. Okay. Well, 29 sixteenths. Well, that's really just saying 29 times 16. So that's equivalent. So we're not circling that one. Well, if we do what's in the parentheses first, this is 16 times, well, that would be 29 in the parentheses. So that one's that one is equivalent. This one, 15 minus 1 would be 14 times 29. Nope, that's definitely not equivalent. 10 times 29 minus 6 times 29. Now, this is a strategy that people use, is that they break apart the 16 into 10 plus 6. But you'd have to add those together for that one to be equivalent. So that is inaccurate. That is not equivalent. So let's go ahead. Let's do the hardest question on this section together. Let's jump to C, and then I'm going to ask you to try to do B on your own if you're not doing it on your own already. So let's write this as commutative property. Let's just reorder those factors as 59 times 74. And then let's evaluate each expression to see if it's equivalent or not. We have 74 times, well, what would be, whoops, that's a plus. 74 times, well, 50 plus 9 would be 59. So that's exactly the equivalent. 74 times, and remember, we always do what's in the parentheses first. So oops, sorry guys, 74 times 59 again, that's equivalent. And then we have 74 times 5 and 74 times 9. If we added those together, that would only give us 14, right? So that means this one's not equivalent. We don't break 59 as a 5 and a 9. We break it apart as 50 and 9, right? That 5 doesn't just mean 5, it means 5 tenths. So don't allow this one to trick you. And then this one is 5974. It's 5974. So 59 times 74. Is that equivalent? Sure is. All right. Now I'd like you to go ahead and try B. I'm going to shift colors. I'm going to pause. I'm going to shift colors so it doesn't get lost in the other work. And when you press play again, I'll be back with the answers. All right, so as we come back, we can see that this first one is not equivalent because it's multiplying those two together. If that was an addition sign, like it is over here, it would be absolutely equivalent. But this first one, because it's multiplying those two sets together, tells us that it's wrong. And then over here is not equivalent. It'd be equivalent if it subtracted those two, but it didn't subtract those two. So it's really saying 45 times 42. All right, let's keep moving down into the next section of this. So you solve using mental math. You can cross off, draw a tape diagram, and just say fill in the blanks to show your thinking. The first one's done partially for you. So 19 times 25 is really blank 25s. Well, it's really 19 25s if we think about it in unit form. Well, 1925s. Well, so 1925s, if we do it mentally, we're trying to say, well, it's 20 times 25. And then we're going to subtract how many groups of those 25s? Well, we're going to subtract one of those 25s. Well, 20 times 25 is what? Well, 2 times 25 is 50. 20 times 25 would be 500. I'm subtracting one of those 25s, which would leave us with 475. If you can't do that part in your head, the subtraction, go ahead and take 2 seconds to show your regroupings, right? It doesn't take you very long to do that. We want to try to practice as much of this mentally in our head as possible, but you absolutely have to show me those steps so that I can follow along with your brain. Well, 24 times 11, remember if we flop this, it's 11 24, so it's 11 24s. Well, what's the easy math for that? How many 24s? Well, should we work with? Well, mentally, it's easiest to round it back down to 10, which is one group less. So we're going to have to add back that 24 group at the end. Well, so 10 times 24 plus 1 times 24. Well, 10 times 24 is 240. One more 24 would be 24. If I add those together, if I think about it doing it in my head, I get 264. Again, if you need to take the seconds to set it up to get it accurate, I'd prefer you to do that. I much prefer accuracy over speed. Speed will come. Accuracy needs to be there. All right, now it looks like they keep taking a little bit away from us, so we have to do more and more. So let's think about this. 79 times 14, we could also think about it as 14 times 79, but let's see. Which one's the easiest number to subtract or add back? Well, that's 14. So we're going to say 79 14s is really what we're thinking. Well, the easiest way to work that is going up to 80, right? And then subtracting one of those 14s back out. So if we have 80 14s, we're going to subtract 1. Now this one, 8 10s times 14, I really can't do in my head, but I could if I broke it apart. Well, 14 is really 10 and 4. Well, what's 10 times 8? Oops, sorry about that. 10 times, I don't know if you see my screen going messy. 10 times 8 is 80. And then I also have to multiply this side by 8, and that would give me 32. If I added those back together, I'd get 112. I just had to do that in my head. If you can't do that in your head, go ahead and stack and add them, right? So now I need to subtract 114 from that. Now, if I do 112 minus 14, I did it over here on the right-hand side because I was running out of room. I need to regroup. 12 minus 4 is 8. 10 minus 1 is 9. So our answer should be 98. Great. Let's move on to the next one. Well, 21 times 75 or 75 times 21. Well, which one's the easier number to subtract? 75 is a nice round number, so I guess it looks like they want us to use 21 75s. Well, it's easiest to think of 20 75s in our head and then add back 175. So if I think about 2 times 75, that should be, if I doubled 75, that's 150. But I'm multiplying by 2 tens, not just 2, so it should be 1,500. And then I'm adding another 75 to that. So this should be 1,575. Again, if you need to stack and add to solve that, please do. All right, last one on this section, and then we'll see what the back page looks like. It says define the unit in word form and complete the sequence of problems as was done in the lesson. Okay, so we're doing the word part. So if I look back up to these last problems, come on, computer, it's not working with me. Oh, somebody emailed me right now, so it's not really doing it. So it looks like we're going to be doing these parts and the rest of the math. Okay, so let's go ahead and check that out down here. Well, 19 times 15, well, it's 19 15s, right? Well, we're going to think first 20 15s, and then we're going to subtract 115. So 20 15s, and we're going to subtract 115. Well, 2 times 15 would be 30, so 2 tens times 15 would be 300. And then I'm going to subtract 115. If you can't do that in your head and get 285, that's okay. We'll get you there, but you're just not there yet. So you're going to have to practice with your standard algorithm. 285, right? All right, so let's move on to the second one. 14 groups of 15, so it's 14 15s. Oh, great, 15s again. 10 15s. I feel like they picked the longest word, number word. Plus 4 15s. Okay, so we're going to break it apart like that, kind of like I did above us in one of those problems. So 10 times 15, and then we're going to add back 4 groups of 15. Well, 10 groups of 15 is 150. 4 groups of 15, ooh, can you do that in your head? I challenge you. See if you get it right. Should be 60. So if we add those back together, we'll get 210. Again, if you can't do 150 plus 60 in your head, please take the time to stack and add. All right, let's see. Oh, let's definitely do these 2 boxes. 25 groups of 12, so it's 12. Okay, that looks like they want us to do 25s. Okay, I was wrong. They're gonna make us do longer words. So we're gonna think 10 25s. But that's 2 less than 12, so we're gonna add back 2 25s. So I'm already thinking 10 groups of 25 is 250, but we're gonna add back 2 groups of 25, which is 50, so our answer should be 300. This is why I love mental math, using unit form to help us solve, and then using these strategies to make life easier. All right, 18 groups of 17, they want us to work with 18 17s. So what's the easiest way to go for 18? Well, it's to go to 20, right? So 20 17s. But that's 2 more 17s than 20, so we have to subtract those 17s. And 20 times 17, and we're going to subtract 2 groups of 17. Well, 2 times 17, if I doubled 17, that would be 34. So 2 tens times 17 is going to be 340. And then over here, I know 2 groups of 17. I just did that math. It's 34. And I'm subtracting those. I can do it in my head. I want you to try to do it in your head. I'm going to stack and subtract over here, though. 10 minus 6 is 4. 3 minus 3 is 0. And 3 minus 0 is 3. Our answer for this math problem should be 304. So once again, 18 times 17 is a math problem that is a very hard challenge to do in your head. But if you use these strategies, you can make life simpler for yourselves. All right. How can 14 times 50 help you find 14 times 49? Well, 14 times 50 is one group of what? It's one group more, but one group of 14 more than 14 times 49. So that helps us solve that. Well, it just wants us to solve mentally. See if you can do this. Well, on this one, I'm going to think 100 times 15, but then I'm going to add back one group times 15. Let's see if that helps you. You don't have to write that down because it wants us to solve it. I'm writing it down so you can see it. Well, that would be a 150, right? Plus 15. Well, if I added those together, 165. Over here, I'm going to think 18 groups of 100, but that's going to be one extra group of 18, right? So I'm going to have to, I'm going to have to subtract one group of 18. Well, 18 groups of 100 is 180. And if I subtract 18, I should be left with 162. Yes. All right. 6. Let's do, you can choose to do 6 or 7. I'm going to pause it. You're going to choose to do 6 or 7. You're going to pause it. And you're going to go ahead and do 6 or 7. When you come back, you're going to check your work. I'll have both done, and you just need to check to see which one you did and correct any mistakes you may have. All right. pause and we'll get back together here in a second. All right, welcome back. Let's go ahead and check the answers. I'm going to check on 6 first. If I looked at the first math problem, it was 45 times 32. Well, that's really 45 groups of 32 or 45 32s. So if I try to visualize that, I have 32 45 different times, right? So they're asking us, they're trying to say that that's the same as 45 groups of 3 plus 45 groups of 2. Well, that really would be, since we're adding these 45 groups of 3 and 45 groups of 2, well, really that becomes 45 groups of 5, right? Because they're adding those together. So we're just adding extra groups of 45 to it. So we got 45 5s. So they're not the same because it's 45 32s versus 45 5s. I personally would much rather have 45 $32 or $32 45 times versus $5 45 times. Again, sometimes it's easier to compare when you go to money. Now, if you chose to do 7, it's a little bit more extra challenging and extra steps. So let's take a look at this a little closer. So we first had to write an expression for Juan delivering 174 newspapers every day, but Edward delivers 126 more newspapers each day. And then they want to know us to write an expression for how many newspapers that Edward will deliver in 129 days. So first I showed in my expression how many he delivers in one day. And then I put those in parentheses and multiplied it by the 29. And then it asked us to use mental math. Well, I added 174 plus 126. So it's 300 groups of 29 to make the math easier for my head. Now, this is hopefully you did in your head. If you have to write it down, go for it. I wrote it down so you could see my mental math. Well, 300 times 30 is really 9,000, but 30 is one extra group of 300, right? So I have to subtract that 300 out. When I subtract that 300 out, I'm left with 2,700. The one thing I did not finish with is a statement. So Edward will deliver 2,700 newspapers. You could finish there, but to make it even stronger, in 29 days. Great. Awesome job on your problem set. Go ahead and shift into your exit ticket. Please take a picture of it and submit it to the lesson today. And great job. Where's my stop button?